Wow, it's just hello. Hi, everyone. Some decontaminating going on. I'm Verity Babs. I'm a comedian and an art writer, and I'm very pleased to be hosting this panel today. For those of you who saw me eating chips on my own outside, nice to see you again. And we're going to be talking about how to boss it in 2022. Got some, it also sounded surprised, like I didn't know. So, oh my goodness. So today on the panel, we've got Isabel Sachs, who is the founder of I Like Networking, an award-winning creative producer, public speaker, and podcast host with over 15 years of experience in arts, culture, and entertainment, passionate about bringing diverse talent into the creative industries. Woo. And we've got Kaiya Milan, who is an artist manager, CEO, and createch strategist. Kaiya started her own all-female collective called the Sorority House & Co. in 2015 and was appointed CEO of The Floor in 2020. So little applause for... I don't know if you guys want to elaborate on your bios or whether we can get right into it.
I mean, you can go.
Digging right in.
Yeah.
So you never have conversations about like how to make the year the most productive ever after January. So we've just got it into the month where everyone's setting their goals, and for a lot of us, like the goals we set at New Year's are like no longer with us. So for you, what do you think the importance is of getting cracking of a new year immediately?
So I myself personally don't do many like New Year's goals. I only do like one a year, and they have not ever been business related. They have usually been like related to a book that I had to do or something, and one specifically that I wanted to kill myself to finish reading, but I did it. But I think it's just when you run your own business, I don't know how you feel about this, but you never really have a total moment off. Like maybe there's Christmas or something, but it's always something on your mind. I think it's important something that I do then actually every year is to look at the year in sort of like in little moments, like what's going to happen the first 2 months and 3 months, then the other ones, so you don't get completely overwhelmed with like big, massive goals, which are great to have, but I personally can't handle that because they create anxiety, and so I just break it all down into little steps. But I also like the idea of, as much as it's great to start like, oh my God, 2022 is a total new year. For me personally, I built a lot of stuff in December so that January could like happen right away. Mm-hmm. But if you haven't done that, there's still time. You can do that for February. But yeah, I like to see things more as like a continuation of an action that you started, basically. So I don't know if that was helpful at all, but there you go.
I think for myself, the new year is a bit of a cliche. I think that, every day we need to be to strive to be better versions of ourselves than we were yesterday. So it's not necessarily like everything restarts in the new year. It's a continuation, as in the 31st of December and the 1st of January are just one day apart. It's just a new day. It's a new opportunity to do something differently, to make kind of a change with yourself. So I think, when you run your own business, it's kind of like you're constantly thinking about ways that you can iterate your company, how you can iterate your team and even yourself. And it doesn't need to start on the 1st of January, and it also doesn't need to completely like kick into gear when the new year starts. It's kind of just like get yourself ready, make realistic goals for yourself. Like my goal is like I'm going to try and be early for things. Like I got here early and I sat in the car because I was just like, I need to be warm for a second, but I got here early today, and that's like my kind of thing for myself. I'm not necessarily a terribly late person, but for myself, it's not for that anyone else is going to notice. No one knows that I was sitting in my car until just now, but it's for myself. And I think, especially with creativity, everything's really externalized at the moment, and I think we need to more internalize our achievements for ourselves. Not everything we need to post on Instagram. I don't need to say, look guys, I'm so on time. Like, look at me, and like give myself an award, like, or a hashtag, but really it's for yourself. So even if it's just like, I'm going to set myself small tasks each day, write them down in the morning and know that I achieved them. No one else might notice apart from yourself. I think we just need to get more back into that thing of doing things that fulfill ourselves and that enable ourselves to be a better version of ourselves tomorrow, essentially.
I think it's interesting what you said, Isabel, about the pressure of the new year. Like personally, I have flat out refused to ever buy a calendar, like a diary that's from January to December. I always buy the school ones that are like September to August, because then I'm like pretending I'm 10 years younger than I am. But also like there's this idea of it not being massively pressurized. It's just like, oh, it's September now, I'll start. But and we're speaking about everything being externalized. I think it'd be interesting to talk about the pressures and how you two deal with it in terms of running your own businesses, and obviously some element of those businesses have to be in the public eye, but how do you deal with the pressures of those two things like coexisting?
I'm gonna be totally honest. I usually can handle a lot of pressure, but sometimes I will cry. Okay, I'll be like, oh my god, I can't handle this. But then you actually figure out you can. But it's okay to cry sometimes, I think. Important side note, if you ever cried for work once in your life. I think, like a lot of, I think there's always a balance that you can do about like, okay, I should share this because it will be helpful for other people to learn as well. And like, if you work with the team, a lot of times you should also be able to share. And I think this is really important that people can share it with you that, oh, I don't know if I can handle this deadline, or how am I going to make this? What's the priority here? And so if you make that conversation open, I think it's really important that time management becomes something of like a team effort. Like we can figure out where the faults are, where we take longer to complete things. And sometimes things are outside of your control. And that can be really frightening when you have a plan and a deadline and a timeline. But that's when really being really transparent about what's stopping you, where your hurdles are. And literally that's where you also see, okay, what can I delegate and what can I bring someone to help me with? It's really important. So that element about the pressure, I think it's really important that it's shared either with your team or with your freelancers or whoever you're going to bring in to help. Or maybe if you don't have any of that yet, you're just on your own. It's where having a good network around you is important, because then you can actually call people that are in similar positions that you, other founders or other freelancers, and you can say, hey, this is where I'm stuck. Like, what have you done in the past? Have you have any tips? I literally do this all the time with people that I met literally online, that I find myself, okay, we're having similar issues at the moment, and it's been always really helpful. But I am personally someone who likes to talk through problems that I have. But there's always a day or two where you're like just in your head all the time. Then you have a little bit of a breakdown. And I always think that having a little breakdown, allowing yourself to have that breakdown and then come back out of it is still a healthy approach to pressure. But I'm not a therapist. No.
I'm an advocate for a meltdown, so don't worry. I mean, if you ever done anything on your own, you know those moments where you feel so overwhelmed that, and you have this thing in your head that no one else understands it, which probably they do. Yeah. But you kind of almost have to look at yourself outside of yourself and just be like, okay, you've had the meltdown now what? And I think it's the then what, because before that, it's always building up to that moment. And then you have it and then you're like, okay, well, it's done now. I can't cry anymore. So I'll sort it out. So I've done that less in the last couple of years, I have to say. But I think that's going for I'm trying not to be cliche, but going for the cliche thing. I do yoga and I do meditation and it really, really works. And I'm one of those people where I have a lot of stuff going on in my head all the time. So when people say, hey, clear your mind and take some time. And I'm like, yeah, but how are you supposed to do that? Because I can literally be thinking about 20 things at the same time. And you kind of have to acknowledge what you're thinking about. And I think it's thinking about things without the distractions, the external distractions around. So actually taking the time to be like, I'm going to sit with myself and my thoughts, however scary that might be, and really go through things one by one. And so it might not be the traditional approach to what meditation is, but once you end up going through those things, you realize that there's suddenly space and that you can suddenly start to think about things with more clarity. It's not really answering your question, but
Yeah.
Good.
I thought I'd give that as a piece of advice. But in terms of dealing with the external, internal kind of pressure, I think something I say to my team at the floor, which is kind of like, no one else knows we were going to do this thing. And if it's too much, let's just not do it. It's not like nothing's happening. Nothing's happening. No one's going to be disappointed. We might be internally a bit disappointed, but you kind of have to look at things really in isolation, in the sense of we have planned to do something that may not happen. We need to be committed to our vision, but we don't have to be kind of constrained by our plans. And I think that sometimes we don't realize that the vision that we've created or the plans that we've created are just things that we thought about in our heads. And as easy as it was to create them, is as easy as it is to dismantle them.
Yeah.
And it's okay to postpone. It's okay to cancel. If anything, 2021 and 2020 should show us it's okay to cancel things. You know, so it's okay. You know, it's good. It will happen again. We're back in real life. We didn't think this was going to happen a year ago. So here we are today. So it's just like, just don't, I don't know. I think even for me, I'm just like, but I said I was going to do this thing, and I want to do what I say I'm going to do. And I do regularly do what I say I'm going to do, but it's also okay if you don't. I say to my team, I forgot. It's okay to forget. You know, it's okay to the only person that you really need to impress is yourself. And at the end of the day, you might not always achieve that, but you need to always strive to do it. And it's literally about you and the internal.
Yeah. And I just think there's also like you're running a company or whatever it is that you're doing. There's a lot of pressure that we put on ourselves, obviously. And Lara, who's here, used to work with me. She was our first official employee. And I used to say this to her all the time, so she can vouch, that of course we want to do the best and we're striving for like a mission and achieving things. But I would always say, like, please try to remember whenever you're feeling like really overwhelmed that we are not doing open heart surgery. So no one's gonna die if we have a typo, you know, if like the newsletter doesn't go out. Like, we can figure this out because, you know, like, lives are not at risk.
Yeah.
So just ours, basically. So, but not in that way. I hope that's clear as well. Just checking. It's like,
I feel like the meltdown experience has been like, we've all accepted that we've all been in that.
yeah.
I've just had a meltdown, and like picking yourself back up. And I think generally the last 2 years have felt a bit like just a meltdown continuously. And I often found that I'd listen to talks and go to talks and listen and then go, but what is the answer? It's like, what is the answer to how do you boss 2022? Like, what is the one thing I have to do and then my life will be great? And when you find yourself like post breakdown, what are the things like practically that you do to be like, I'm going to get my stuff back on track?
So I like to do this exercise where, okay, so I have two answers to that. One that's very practical and one slightly less practical. My very practical one, which not everyone will enjoy and think it's good for them, is that I plan out most of my day with lots of different colors, including things that I need to do for my apartment, like laundry, calling my mom, whatever, I don't have a dog, but if I had one, taking it for a walk, like everything in like different colors, and it's a mess and it's huge and it's synced to all sorts of things and it looks very scary for most people. I love it. I get up in the morning and I look at it just so I know what's happening. And then I look at it and think to myself, and this is the best part, what are the 2 or 3 things that if they don't happen today, literally will stop my business from moving forward, or my life, but like usually my business. And so what needs to happen today? Like, what is like absolutely has to be action, and everything else then gets swapped around a bit so that I make sure that if it's something like, I don't know, a funding application, I can only concentrate on things like that either really early in the morning or really late at night. So I make sure that that's time blocked for that, and then I'm going to wake up at the time to do it or whatever, and there will be no emails or notifications on. So I literally found through all these years working what are the times in the days that I work best for what things. So like at this moment of the day, I feel a little robotic or I'm a little calm, so I can do manual, like automated stuff that don't take a lot of attention and all of that. And I literally reorganize things on my calendar every morning so that the main issues are highlighted and it's like, this has to be done. If everything else needs to be reshuffled and go somewhere else, or just not happen at all, which is also a very good measure. Like if you keep postponing things forever, ask yourself, why am I postponing it? Is it really because I don't want to do it? Is someone else better at doing this than me? And like, is this something that should be delegated or should I just let it go? So that's usually how I do it, but it's not a system that will work for everyone.
Yeah.
But yeah, colorful calendars. Good.
Yeah. I'm again an advocate for colorful calendars too. I think, yeah, feeling together is something that I think a lot of people strive for. Not all people, but a lot of people strive for. I think sometimes looking at the mess or, your organized mess kind of helps you gain clarity, and also things that, not everything needs to get done. I definitely agree with doing things that are outside of work as well as work stuff, because I think for me personally, I always used to put a lot of personal stuff off and think, oh, that's not a priority, and that's not like, it will get done at the end, and then it just, of course, never gets done. And then you end up neglecting yourself, and then you're in a weird, negative, toxic cycle of like leaving yourself till last, not practicing self-care, then burning yourself out, and then trying to pour from an empty cup, which, as I've said, you can actually do. People say you can't pour from an empty cup. My mum used to say that to me. You can, just don't do it, because essentially, eventually you will be so depleted that you won't have anything for anyone else or yourself. So I definitely say don't do that. But yeah, organize yourself, get a list of priorities together. As I said before, set yourself very, very clear guidelines in terms of, I'm going to do these 2 or 3 things today. And then that's it. Also, set yourself a clock to stop working. I think when you're in the creative industry, you can work all times of night, all times of the morning. You cannot eat. I've done that. It's not good. Lots of things. Even just like drinking water. I have this big jug, which my team know about, but it's got like times of the day. It starts at 7 a.m. and I think it goes up until like 10 p.m. or something. And it's just like, it's got all these really nice little like motivational quotes on it, from Amazon if you want to buy it. But it reminds me to drink water, which I would forget to do, because I'm not one of those people where it's like, oh, I need to drink water instead of X, Y, Z. I just don't drink anything at all. And I think it's just, I can just get carried away with doing whatever I'm doing. So those things are like, essentially, I guess, me practicing self-care, but also it's like, set yourself realistic goals. I'm going to stop working at 6 o'clock. If everything is not done, the sky is not going to fall in. It's all good. It will get done tomorrow. I think, especially during the pandemic, actually, I think you can just work and the days just go into each other. And is it really necessary? You don't feel bad for watching some Netflix, because I think that's also like part of like refueling yourself and refilling your cup. It's like you need to be able to work at your optimum, so you need to take time out for yourself. And especially when you're working for yourself, when there is no one to tell you to stop working or to start working even, you just almost become like a slave to yourself. And I think we all need to learn how to balance out different things in our lives and actually prioritize going out, hanging out with your friends, which is as important as sending that one email, because it's actually helping you move forward and be able to be the best version of yourself when you're approaching your creativity or your work or whatever it is.
And can just raise your hand, who works from home every day?
Everybody.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I've been before COVID and before working from home was fashionable, I worked from home a lot as well. With my first company, we had an office for 6 months and it was so useless that I was like, okay, there's no point in this. And so I think it took me a long time. So first of all, like it takes time for you to understand how your body works. Like, okay, I'm better if I wake up and go for a run in the morning or meditate, or I'm better if I go for a run in the middle of the day, or, whatever. Don't let the diet police tells you that you need to work out at 7 a.m. or nothing will work or whatever it is. Make whatever works for you, but make sure that you are actually thinking about yourself as a whole, because that's it. Like at the end of the day, you're the only one there and you're the only one who can do things. And if you work for yourself, yeah, like when, excuse my French, shit hits the fan, you're the only one in charge. And that is a lot of pressure and that can be really hard. So you gotta be able to be like, okay, I can do this, I can manage it, and everything else can fall apart afterwards. And I think it's really important that we try to balance as much as we can a social life, or your whatever is important to you, your pottery class, your reading, your exercise routine, your calling your friends, whatever makes your soul happier. But the flip side of that is that if you're working for yourself, and especially, and even if you're not, but you're working from home, Scott said, you're the only person who knows actually what's going on minute by minute, day by day. So it's also on you when you have to like really hit a deadline or something goes on, you're gonna have to work harder and etc. So make sure that you understand, okay, what is that gonna do to me on the next day, and how do I then take care of myself afterwards? Because I think it's unrealistic to say, I mean, at least in my opinion, to be like, yeah, you find the life-work balance and then you stay there. It doesn't really work like that. It's like, okay, now it's good. Now it's kind of bad. Now it's good. So you need to always be kind of working on it so that you're not completely here or there, that you're not like, that you're swimming and not swallowing the water, basically.
I think one thing that I'm interested to ask you, and in a minute we're going to go into a Q&A as well, but one thing I wanted to ask was about something I've heard about recently, about this idea of like an invisible, like a made up hurdle. Right, so like over the last 2 years, I think especially like working from home, there are some things that you find kind of consistently get in the way of you doing the things you want to do and achieving what you want to do, and then you sort of realise that that's not like actually founded in reality. Like so for me, there's a lot of stuff I thought, I'd love to like make that content, and then I thought, but I can't make that content because someone else has already made something similar and better, and didn't for ages, and then went, that's sort of entirely made up. I've just sort of built that hurdle for yourself, and you're surprised at how many things, when you think, I haven't got the time for that, you might then go, actually, no, I've sort of made that up. I do have the time. I just spend a lot of time watching Seinfeld or whatever. Like there's priorities that have to happen. But for you two, have you had hurdles that you've realised have been like quite easily surmountable when you realise actually they don't really exist? They don't really matter that much, certainly.
I think in the competition thing, I've always seen like if whatever you're doing has competition, you're probably in a good market, because a market with no competition is usually not a fair market as big tech. But everything else, like I think it's usually like, yeah, there will always be people doing what you've done, but like you're the only you, so you can do it in a different way or whatever. And I feel like I had a boss who used to say like there's space for everyone. So I try to work with this sort of mentality that there is space for everyone, because I just think it's a healthier way to see the world. Might be a bit rose-tinted glasses, whatever that expression is, that I don't know, but it's something like that. But yeah, definitely I think it's very easy to get caught up in things that are not necessarily useful in the way that, like there will always be challenges. And then as long as they don't stop you completely, right? Like, because I think that's where the issues happen. It doesn't matter if it takes you 10 days to do something that maybe someone does in 1 hour, as long as you keep moving towards that. If that's what's going to help you achieve your goal, then that's fine. It's better than just like feeling completely paralyzed and be like, oh my God, all this stuff is happening, blah, blah, blah. And I have that a lot, that moment. And I found ways to get better. So I usually go for a run. If that doesn't work, call someone. So I have like steps in my own brain of like, okay, I'm in that stage now. Yeah. And actually break things down. Like, why is this such a big issue right now? What is this barrier? So I think knowing your strengths is as important as knowing your hurdles 100%. But I'm usually now able to come out of it with like a few strategies, but will, I think, also differ to everyone. I don't know.
I think I won't speak for everybody, but I think like myself has been my biggest hurdle. I realize that we all have the ability to accomplish anything that we want to accomplish. I always say you're able to do anything that you want to do, but you have to be willing to do what it takes to get it. And I think a lot of us are not really willing to do what it takes, and not even in a critical way. Literally, like I could be, I don't know, a huge singer. I don't sing. I can't sing. 100%. I manage artists, so I do. But I could do that if I was willing to go and take vocal lessons and to go and put myself out there and do open mics and all those sorts of things. I could probably do it, maybe. But don't challenge me to that. But you have to be willing to do what it takes to get there. And I don't think a lot of the time the things that we want to accomplish, that we actually are taking the steps and are actually putting ourselves in the positions to accomplish those things. So on a day-to-day basis, it's like my whole thing at the moment is one small thing. So there's a bunch of things that I want to do outside of the things that I'm currently doing. But I'll say I don't have the time. I don't have the time to do it. Or, you know, I do work definitely more hours than I should. But even if it's just a tiny thing, like it's an application form or it's a bit of reading, I try and do it. Even if it's like 1 o'clock in the morning, I'm like, okay, I'm going to do that research, because again, no one else is watching. It's just me, right? And when it comes down to it at the end, everyone might have forgotten this whole event happened or even that I said this, but I know when it comes down to it that, okay, I did that one thing, I did that one small thing towards my goals. And I think on a day-to-day basis that we kind of just need to focus on that thing. And it might just be something really random, like you want to learn how to make a certain recipe and it's like, okay, cool, I'm going to go and like research that today, or I'm going to go and like, you might not make it for 2 months, but at least by the time you get there, you've done all the steps to get to that point. And I just think, we just need to make things more bite-sized and stop setting these huge goals for ourselves and start kind of setting realistic expectations of ourselves that we are able to achieve, so that on a day-to-day basis we're actually moving forward, even if it doesn't seem like it to anybody else.
Yeah.
So
I love that. That's a good tip.
I think that's a great kind of way to end and open up to the floor if anyone's got any questions for any members of the panel. Yeah.